Welcome to the Wild Remedies podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Ancora, and I'm here to bring you captivating stories from some of the most fascinating people I've connected with on my own journey of physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Wild Remedies podcast. I'm literally glowing right now. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I do the intros to the interviews that you guys listen to right after I have the interview. And I just talked to Neale Donald Walsch, who is probably my most, he is for sure my most favorite spiritual teacher on the planet. And so this is just like a really big moment for me. And I'm so excited for you guys to get to learn from Neale. So Neale's first three books, which were, I'm pretty sure it was his first three books. The Conversation with God series changed my life profoundly. And if you know me, I have sent you these books, or I've told you to download the audios on Audible. They're just so beautiful, the way that they're narrated. And a few years ago, a fourth book came out. So there's 4 books in the series. And Neale has written, 39 books that have been translated into dozens and dozens of languages all over the world. I mean, like, he hangs with Oprah. He's Alanis Morissette's spiritual advisor. This is a really big deal that I got to talk to him today. So yeah, I really hope you guys get a lot out of this conversation. Like I said, his work has changed my life. So essentially the Conversation with God trilogy, well, there's 4 books now, but they are essentially channeled works where Neale just had a conversation with God. And anything you could ever think of or have a question about is in these books. And I just knew on such a deep, deep level that there was just so much truth in these pages. So we're going to dig into some of the topics that are discussed in these books and the many, many, many books that Neale has written. And hopefully do a round 2. Neale said he would be down to do another interview. I think I'd love to do another one where we talk about book 4, where he talks about highly evolved beings, Hebs. A little bit more about Neale is that he has, like I said, written 39 books on contemporary spirituality and its practical application in everyday life. 7 of his 9 books in his Conversation with God series have made the New York Times bestseller list, with book 1 remaining on that list for 134 weeks. Well, yeah, no kidding. It's phenomenal. His titles have been translated into 37 languages. He is the creator of CWG Connect, which is a global online platform connecting people who wish to learn more deeply and explore the messages in the Conversations with God body of work. And his latest book is The God Solution, which came out in 2020. And so we discussed some concepts in that book as well, which he also offers for free to this audience. So make sure you tune into the end. He shares an email that you can email, and he will send the book directly to you for free. And it's cool because it kind of sums up the whole Conversations with God series. These books are big, like they're very long. So that's why I always recommend the audibles, because they're very theatrical. The actors that he chose to play out the narration are just, it's beautiful. It's just a beautiful work of art. And yeah. Okay. I'm so excited for you guys to meet Neale and listen to this interview. He's just wonderful. And yeah, make sure connect with me on social media over this one, guys, and let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So that's it from me for now. Let's go have a chat with Neale Donald Walsch.
Hi, I'm Maddie. Let me tell you a quick story of how I'm supporting my PCOS with Wild Remedies Spiced Chocolate Magic Latte. First of all, I'm a registered holistic nutritionist, so you know I'm investing in finding long-term, sustainable approaches to wellness. Living with PCOS, when things are feeling a little out of balance, it's common for me to wake up groggy, have blood sugar crashes throughout the day, or become totally overwhelmed by daily stressors. My morning coffee was causing blood sugar spikes, anxiety, and tummy trouble, so I swapped it for Wild Remedies spiced chocolate magic latte about a year ago. And believe me when I tell you that the change has been insane. Each sachet has 3 servings of wild Siberian chaga, a powerful antioxidant-rich adaptogenic mushroom that helps to fight inflammation and fatigue and regulate the immune system. It tastes like a creamy hot chocolate with just a hint of spice, and it keeps my stomach calm. Since swapping, I feel more clarity and calm throughout the day, and my morning magic latte helps to set clear intentions for the rest of my day. I save 15% on my monthly subscription at wildremedieshop.com, and at $2.50 per serving, it's saving me a ton on Starbucks runs and supplement orders. Check out the links and promos in the show notes to get your own. Your adrenals will thank you.
It's wonderful to be speaking with you. I've followed your work for a very, very long time and resonate with it deeply. So this is a very big blessing for me today. Thank you so much. I actually found your work a few years ago when I used to work at Mind Valley.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, a while back. And I really loved you because of your humbleness there. I remember your interviews with Vishen, and you would kind of poke fun at him a little bit, and I always loved that about you.
Thank you for saying such nice things to me.
Mm.
How may I serve you?
Well, I am just very excited to talk to you today and to introduce you to our audience at Wild Remedies. So
wonderful.
We have a fairly new podcast that we started, I think beginning of this summer. And it's been really wonderful so far. It's been taking off quite quickly, and it's been a real blessing for me because I've been able to reconnect with a lot of my community of beautiful spiritual teachers and educate on health and wellness. And you're probably one of my very most favorite spiritual teachers. So this is a really, really exciting interview for me, and really hoping that we can get more people interested in your work, because the Conversations with God series was something that was very transformative for me, and I'd love to share that with others.
Thank you for saying that. I hope that I can offer something of value today.
I'm very sure you will. Why don't we start off by just explaining to the audience how it all started, going back to how you started having this dialogue with God?
There was a period of time in my life when everything was falling apart all at once. Often we face challenges at work, or maybe some challenges in our relationship, or some health issues. But I had all 3 going on at one time. My marriage at that time to a very sweet lady was totally falling apart, and I couldn't hold it together. At the same time, within days of that experience, I lost my job. I was downsized. The corporation that I worked for had to lose some overhead, and I thought I was doing a pretty good job for them. And my boss even said, "Oh man, we really hate to lose you. You really are doing a heck of a job for us." But it's seniority, last in, first out, so we have to let you go. So I lost my relationship and lost my job in the same 5-day period. Now I'm driving down the road going to an interview for a new job, trying to find some work somewhere. And some older gentleman turns left in front of me. He misjudged the speed of my car. I was not going fast. I'm kind of a slowpoke driver, but he still misjudged it, smashed right into me. Terrible accident in which I broke my neck.
Oh,
and
wow.
It wasn't just like a hairline fracture. I had I remember the wording on the X-ray vividly. It said that I had suffered a 3/4 inch avulsion fracture of the 7 cervical vertebrae posteriorly. A 3/4 inch avulsion fracture is a break in your neck big enough to put a pencil through.
Oh my gosh.
That wasn't a hairline fracture.
No.
And so when I woke up from the assistance I was being given, of course, naturally they rushed me right to the hospital. But when I got there and they found out that I had a severely broken neck, with that big of a break in my neck, when I came to, because they had put me out, of course, with pain relievers. When I came to, the doctor said, "What are you going to do for the rest of your life? Because you got to know something. I got to tell you something. 1 out of 100 people live through what you've lived through. A fracture that severe in your neck usually creates, some complications, neurological complications that can cause instant death, or certainly paralysis. You're neither dead nor are you paralyzed. So you've been given a second chance in life. What do you intend to do with the rest of your life?" And that really stopped me to think. But I couldn't find a job. I couldn't find work anywhere. I had to wear a collar, a therapeutic collar, what's known in the business as a Philadelphia collar. So it's a plastic, collar that you wear on your neck. That holds your head up. And the doctor said, "Do not take this off for any reason, because imagine a basketball being held on the head of a pin. There's nothing supporting your head, so you must wear this collar until we tell you can take it off." I had to wear it for almost 17 months, almost a year and a half, over a year and a half. Nobody would hire me because they saw me as a walking insurance claim. So I couldn't find work anywhere. I wound up finally losing my apartment. I had taken a little apartment because my wife and I separated. I lost my apartment because the landlord rudely insisted that I pay the rent. And I had no money to pay the rent with since I was out of work. So I asked my wife if she'd take me back for just during my rough period. She said, "Gosh, please don't ask me to do that." And I said, "Okay, fair enough." I wound up living on the street for a year. I had nowhere else to go. So I wound up living on the sidewalk. I mean, sleeping on the concrete, walking the streets every day because I would wake up in the morning without a penny to my name. And I walked the streets with my hand out, asking people, anything could help, anything. A quarter, a dollar, a half dollar. Some people would reach into their pocket and say, "All I have is just some loose change. I'm sorry, I can't really help you." I said, "My friend, if everybody I talked to today gave me a half dollar, I might be able to eat something by 5 o'clock. Please, whatever you have." And they would give me that quarter or that half dollar they had in their pocket. And most days, usually around 4 or 5 o'clock, I managed to gather enough coins to maybe get a hamburger and some French fries at McDonald's or whatever. And I lived that way for a year of my life. I wasn't on the street for 2 weeks or 2 bad months, but for a year of my life. And then I got off the street. I'm sorry you asked me the question. I'm going to give you the story. I got off the street. Finally, I found a little part-time job, weekend job at a radio station where I had been, I spent years in broadcasting. So I got this part-time job at a local radio station, a weekend fill-in announcer, so they could give their regular staff Saturdays and Sundays off. And I wasn't making a lot of money for 2 days a week, 2 days work a week. But there I was, just enough to afford a little one-room apartment on top of a garage in somebody's backyard. But I was at least out of the weather. I was at least out of the rain, out of the cold. And that's when I woke up one morning at 4:30 in the morning, asking myself. By the way, I wasn't a young man. If I'd been 25 or 20 years old, or even 30, fair enough. But I was over 50 years old when this was happening to me. So I woke up one morning and I thought, now, come on. At the age of 53, whatever I was, how can this be happening to me? I've got enough smarts, enough intelligence, enough basic talent. I mean, what? How can this be happening to me? What? And I was furious. So I threw back the covers and I went out into the other part of I was a one-room, apartment, but I went to where the couch was, sat on my couch, plunked myself down, picked up a yellow legal pad that happened to be on the coffee table, and I began writing a very angry letter to God. Okay, all right. What does it take to make life work? Somebody tell me, what have I done to deserve a life of such continuing struggle? And while you're at it, tell me the rules. I'll play this damn game. Just tell me the rules. Because it seems to me every other day the rules are changing. And I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. So what is going on? And I received an answer in my mind. I could have sworn there was someone in the room, but of course there was no one there. I thought I heard a voice, but it was in my mind, and the voice said, Neale, do you really want answers to all of these questions? Or are you just venting? And I could remember saying to myself, yeah, I am venting. But if you've got answers, I'd sure as hell like to know what they are. And immediately the thought came to my mind, wouldn't you rather be sure as heaven? You're sure as hell about a lot of things. And I said, well, what is that supposed to mean? I'm talking to myself here, and I'm getting another answer. And so I'm answering the answers that I'm getting and asking questions. And before I knew it, Krista, I was involved in an on-paper dialogue with God. Question and answer, question and answer. And I called it a conversation with God because I didn't feel like I was talking to myself. I really felt very much as if I was talking to some other essence or entity in the universe. And one of the reasons I thought it was not my own mind is that it was giving me answers I would never have thought of, saying to me words I never would have said, and bringing me insights that never occurred to me. So I thought, okay, I've connected with something here. I'm going to call it God. Mm-hmm. And then I was told, Krista, in the dialogue, you will one day make of this a book, and it will be accessed by many people. And I thought, we'll see about that. That's ridiculous. No one's going to publish a book by a guy who says, I could just see the publisher walking out to the staff, in the workroom. Hold the presses. I got a guy here who's talking to God. Of course, it's not going to happen. Nobody's going to publish this. So I sent it to a smattering, I think 3 or 4 publishers. Sent my handwritten notes. I Xeroxed them off and sent them to a couple of publishers. 3 or 4, to be honest. And by the way, I got a call about 2 weeks later from one of the publishers, small publisher. I didn't send it to any of the big publishers like Random House or Putnam, but I did send it to some small publishers that I saw published, self-help books. I went to the local bookstore. Who should I send this to? So I sent it off to some smaller publishers. Sure enough, one of them called me and said, we want to put your book out. Mm. I said, no way, really? They said, yeah, it's a great work of fiction. I said, no, whoa. It's not a work of fiction. You're not putting it out as a fiction book. They wanted to have it be a fiction book called Conversations with God. Mm. And I said, no, we're not doing that. This is not fiction. This actually happened to me. And the guy said, you would turn down publishing your first book because you don't think we're doing it right? I said, yes, because I'm not going to lie about it and pretend it's a book of fiction. And I don't want people to think it's a work of fiction. So he said, well, okay, but if we publish it as a nonfiction book, it's not going to go very far. We'd be lucky if we saw a couple thousand copies because, first of all, nonfiction books don't sell that well. And secondly, we need to at least change the title. I said, no, you're not changing the title. We're going to call it Conversations with God, which is what I wrote on the top of my notes, my handwritten notes that I sent him. He said, wow, you're really stubborn. I said, no, we're going to call it what it is. We're not going to call it something else. Okay, he said, well, we're told, We'll put it out and see what it does. It's not going to sell that many. And he's right. It didn't really sell that many books. Only 15 million in 27 languages.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Wow.
so not bragging, just saying,
Mhm.
I realize that when God says something, you better believe her because she's not kidding around. And so that's how the book came to be. And of course, the process in my life wasn't stopping; it was continuing. So I kept on with my writing, and then I moved from a yellow legal pad ultimately to a keyboard because the messages were coming so fast. Really, even writing them out in longhand was taking longer than I had patience for. So I started, and since I happen to be a very good typist, I type 65 words a minute. So I was just really clicking the keyboard. And out came what turned out to be book 2 and then book 3. And it continued until I had 9 books of dialogue.
Mhm.
And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
It's such a fascinating story. And I don't know how I managed to miss the first part about the accident and being on the street because I knew there was an angry letter, but I don't remember all of that. That is so fascinating and profound. So
Well, it's what made me so angry. I was so angry because I thought, how can all this, first of all, how can all this be happening to me all at one time? Losing my marriage, losing my job, and then losing my health. Most people have one of the three, maybe once, but not all three at the same time. I thought, wow, so life gave me the triple whammy: relationship, job, and health, all in the same 10-day period. That's when I got so furious. I said to God, okay, all right, fair. What's going on here? Fair enough. Somebody just give me the rules because I don't want to play anymore. And I really didn't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
I remember feeling like, I'm done.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people get to that period in their life, right? Like this rock bottom. And I mean, do you have any insight into why you feel this happened to you? Like it was almost like you were kind of.
Well, there's no question why it happened to me.
Why?
I had made my living as a writer, much up till that time. I was a writer for a local newspaper. I became managing editor of it's a small little daily paper, but I became the managing editor of that paper and so forth. And I was a news writer, and I worked in broadcasting, and I was the news director, and I wrote the news. In other words, I did a lot of writing, and I know exactly why it happened to me, because it was never intended to be just for me. It was intended to be for the world at large. But I was selected by the universe, if you please, by God, because God, of course, knew that I had writing talent, that I wouldn't, cringe from the idea. When she said to me, "You will make of this a book," I didn't go, "Oh my, I can't do that." I just let it happen. I just let it continue to be experienced the way I was experiencing it. And I've since written 30 other books in support of the Conversations with God dialogue. So I have produced 39 books in all. Again, not bragging, but just saying, because you asked me, why did this happen? I think it happened to me because of my peculiar life skill of being a writer. But I should say this, and I've been instructed to say this whenever anyone asks me questions like that. It's not why it happened to me. It's happening to everyone. I was told in the very first part of book 1, because I said to God, what's this about? Why are you talking to me? And God said, "Oh, Neale, sweetheart, I'm not just talking to you. I talk to everyone all the time. The question isn't to whom is God talking. The question is, who's listening?"
Yeah.
And I had nothing else to do. It was a lot of work. So I was listening. And I was writing down what I was hearing. It was very much an experience of taking dictation. It's like you're just taking dictation. That's what I was doing, writing down what I was being told. And I did send it off to a publisher, and the rest, as they say, is publishing history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's why it happened. I'm very clear why it happened, because God intended for this message to be sent to the world, which is why it's now in 38 languages
Mm-hmm.
and published around the world.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's truly a magnificent work. And I cherish the Conversation with God series similarly too. Like I call them my Bible. And for anyone who hasn't read the series, and I mean, Neale, you have many, many wonderful books, but these are the ones that I always go back to. There's so much information. And when I first, and I listened to the book, so I tend to listen to a lot of books on Audible
Yes.
now, and the performance and the way that you chose to have both a man and a woman perform back and forth in the voice of God, I really appreciated, which I thought was really beautiful. And the dialogue is just, it's stunning. And in those books, for anyone who hasn't experienced them yet, any question you could ever ask about anything is in these books. And I remember for myself, and I think it was in the first book when there was a discussion about essentially the story of the little soul in the sun, where I just broke down crying, and I knew that's how it worked. Like something really deep in my soul just, yeah, it was like this very, very deep knowing and almost a relief for me, because, as human beings, we've created all of these ideas of God through religion and certain books and all of these things that have a very egoistic lens to them. But God really just resides in us, doesn't it? And there's
Wow.
this remembering.
To put it mildly, we are in fact individuations of the divine.
Mm-hmm.
So I was told that every sentient being in the cosmos, and of course there's intelligent life in the universe, not on Earth, but elsewhere in the universe, there is intelligent life. That usually gets a bigger laugh than you just.
Oh no, I talk about this stuff all the time, and I'm excited to dig into that with you today too.
but there is intelligent life elsewhere in the cosmos, but not on this planet.
Yeah, this planet is struggling a little bit for sure. Yeah.
Nevertheless, I was told that all intelligent life, every sentient being in the universe, is an individuation of the divine, that God planted itself and its essence within every living being. And we call that the soul.
Mm-hmm.
So the soul, I have come to understand, is God in us. So yes, it is true that everyone is an individuation of God. Now, I've had some people, give me a hard time about that. They might either write me an email or post on social media, or they even come to my lectures. They stand in the back of the room and they say, "Are you trying to tell me that you think that we are God?" And I say, "No, wait a minute. That's not what I said. I said we are individuations of God." And my friend in the back of the room will say, "All right, what's that supposed to mean?" And then I repeat to them what I was given in the dialogue, a wonderful analogy. Supposing that our relationship with God was the same as the relationship of, shall we say, a wave to the ocean. Not a drop of water, but an entire wave. Like if you've ever been on a ship out in the ocean and you see the waves rising and falling. I said, but the wave is not something other than the ocean. It's not separate from the ocean at any time. It's simply an arising of the ocean in beautiful, magnificent, glorious, powerful form. And when that arising is complete, the wave recedes back into the ocean whence it came. And that's precisely a metaphor for our relationship with God. Mm-hmm. We are a wave on the ocean of God. So as God said to me, "Neale, go out there and make waves."
Mm.
So, yes, my understanding is that we are all individuations of the divine.
Mhm.
Now, for those people who don't have time to read 9 Conversations with God books, I captured the essence of those 9 books in my latest writing, which is called The God Solution.
Mhm.
And the God Solution is a summary of the most powerful messages from Conversations with God, including the whole process of manifestation and how that works, as
Mhm.
well as a brand new definition of God. It says that the problem we have on our planet is that people have defined God inaccurately, and we have then imitated God because we've been instructed by all the world's religions that we should act like God, that we should use God as our example, if you please.
Mhm.
So we have used God as our example because we've imagined that God is judgmental, condemning, and punishing. So we've chosen to believe that it's okay for us to be
Mhm.
judgmental, condemning, and punishing as well, because it's, after all, what's good enough for God is good enough for us.
Yeah.
But what the God solution that's offered, summarizing the greatest wisdom from Conversations with God, is that God is not judging, condemning, and punishing, that God can be defined in 2 words: pure love.
Mm.
Now, again, my friend in the back of the room will say, "Oh, Neale, come on. I've been listening to you for 20 minutes for you to tell me your great revelation is that God is love." And I have to say, relax. That's not what I said. I didn't say God is love. Well, I just heard you say. I said, "No, wait a minute. I said God is pure love." Now my friend will say, "Okay, what's the difference?" The difference is that pure love requests, expects, requires, needs, and demands nothing in return. We can't imagine a God like that. We can't even treat the person across the pillow that way, much less other human beings in the world.
Mhm.
So it's hard for us to believe a God who would not be judgmental, condemning, and punishing, or who would not need anything from us. No, no, God needs us to obey the 10 Commandments. He needs us to wear certain things, certain headdresses on our head to cover our hair if we're female. And he needs us not to go to college and not to go to school if we're female as well, because you can't do that in certain countries if you belong to the wrong sex. And he needs us not to get married with each other if we're the same sex. And he needs us, there's a lot of things that God needs. And if you don't give God what he needs, he's going to send you to hell.
Mm.
And billions of people believe that. So I
Wow.
think it's okay to send each other to hell as well if they don't do what we want them to do. Mr. Putin is doing that exact thing right now in Ukraine,
Mhm.
killing thousands of people because he believes that the borderline between his country and Ukraine is in the wrong place.
Mm.
And without even arguing whether he's right or wrong, but to kill thousands of people over a borderline? You can't just sit down and negotiate some kind of an understanding? So this is the nature of the human species,
Mhm.
because we have been imitating the God of our understanding, who condemns and punishes us if we don't do what he demands.
Mhm.
Now, it's theologically revolutionary to suggest for a minute that God will never judge us and condemn us or punish us for anything.
Well, I mean, one of the excerpts from the Conversations with God series that always stuck with me is when God says that even Hitler went to heaven.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
she did tell us that.
Mm-hmm.
Hitler went to heaven. And of course, when I heard it, I was aghast. How can that be one of the worst human beings ever to live on the planet?
Mm-hmm.
And God said, you don't understand. You clearly don't understand who and what God is. God will not even forgive you for anything. You know, I have a interesting time whenever I'm asked to speak in churches. Every so often, the church has the courage to ask me to give a little talk. And I get into the pulpit and I say, "I'm so glad to hear you have arrived here today. Thanks for being here, because I've come to tell you today that God will never forgive you for anything." And the place goes crazy. People get up and walk out. The congregation doesn't know what to do with that. And I say to them, well, let me explain something here. God won't forgive you for anything because it's impossible for you to injure, hurt, damage, disappoint, or anger God in any way, simply because that which is the highest power in the universe needs nothing, much less anything from you, much less your idolatry or your obedience. And if you can't understand how that could even be possible, let me ask you this much. Those of you who have stayed in the church and have the courage to stay in your pews and at least hear me out, raise your hand if you've ever had the privilege of holding in your arms a 9-month-old baby. And almost every hand in the audience goes up, either their own child or a grandchild or the baby of a friend. They've all had the experience of holding a baby in your arms. I said, now, even as you are so loving that child, seeing its beauty and the purity and the wonder of its being, if the child should happen to have an unfortunate biological accident while you're holding the baby, what do you say to the baby? Oh, it's okay, sweetheart. I forgive you. Of course not. You understand that forgiveness is not part of the equation. The child doesn't even know what it's doing, doesn't have the capacity to understand that you don't want to have a biological accident when you're in the arms of someone who's dressed to kill and ready to go to church.
Mm-hmm.
We are babies in the eyes of God. We are infants. We're still acting like 2-year-olds. We're doing silly things. We're doing incredible things. We're eating poison. We're drinking poison. We're actually, excuse me, I have to. We're actually poisoning ourselves. Some people are actually doing this, which I did for about 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't even know how to take care of ourselves, much less take care of the planet that we're on.
Yeah.
And so we're creating ecological suicide because we don't even know how to take care of our ecology.
Mm-hmm.
We can't even stop global warming. No, we can't do that because the biggest corporations would lose too much money if we stop using oil and gas and other artificial fuels to keep us warm. So we could put solar panels on all of our houses and all of our cars, but that would take all that money away from the gas and oil producers, and we can't do that because I understand that the energy from the sun is totally free, but if there's no profit in it, we can't use it. So there you have the condition of this primitive species that we call humanity, acting like 2-year-olds. I didn't mean to get on my political soapbox, but
No, I mean, it's so true, right? And it's so frustrating. And I think, my generation especially feels this so deeply, right? Like we've been handed this planet with so many problems and, but even humanity in general, from your new book, The God Solution, like just to quote it, you list all of these facts.
this is a rolled up toilet paper, by the way, just in case anyone is wondering, what is he doing?
I love it. But like we allow, you say 1.7 billion of our own members to go without clean drinking waters their whole entire lives. 1.6 billion of our own human species to go without electricity. 2.6 billion have no indoor toilets. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. And I don't know if it made me feel better, but it helped me understand a little bit more in the books when you talk about how humanity is a very young species.
Yes.
Maybe we can talk about that a little bit.
Well, somebody, I forgot their name right now, but these guys wrote an incredible book in which they wrote a paragraph, and I've quoted it many times. In that book, they wrote a paragraph that talked about this. They talked about if you took the age of the Earth and put it on a calendar year, overlaid it across a 12-month calendar, just for purposes of better understanding, to reduce the whole concept to something the mind can hold. If we used a calendar year as the measure of the age of this planet, the first form of life didn't appear until the middle or the end of February. And that was simple single-cell amoeba, single-cell animals. Human beings didn't walk the planet until what we would call November on that scale of time. Mm. The dinosaurs were still around on this December the 5th. And human beings didn't really develop into a species that could understand what it was doing and why it was here until December the 25th. And the entirety of human culture, the entirety of human history occurred on that scale of time in the last 60 seconds of the year. That's how young we are relative to the age of the Earth. Forget about the age of the universe. Mm-hmm. That's how young we are relative to the age of the planet that we call home. We've been here for just a breath of the Earth's lifespan. No wonder we don't know how to take care of it. No wonder we don't have any reverence for it. No wonder we don't care. Let's just plumb its resources and destroy it if we have to in order to live the good life. Mm. And so that's how young we are as a species relative to the cosmos in which we live. Mm-hmm. And so now, the higher power, by the way, I was going to say, if there really is a higher power, 8.5 out of 10 people, a survey was taken. Surveys have been taken around the world in the past 10 years by a team of anthropologists who have asked a single question. It was a one-question survey. Do you believe in a higher power? And 8.5 of every 10 people asked said yes. There's more going on here than meets the eye. There's something greater. There is a higher power. But you know what's sad? The sad irony is, while 85% of us believe in some kind of higher power, we can't come to a mutual agreement on what the power is, what it wants, what it does, what it will do to us if it doesn't get what it wants, or how to use that power in our own lives. We can't come to an understanding. We can't come to an agreement about that, which is why there are now 4,200 religions on the face of the earth. I didn't make that number up. Google it.
4,200 religions.
Yes, 4,236, I think, is the actual number. Faith traditions now being practiced on the planet Earth. Just type into Google and go on your Google search engine and just type in the question, how many religions are there on Earth? Over 4,000 religions, because we can't agree. Well, we agree that there is something we call God, or the divine essence or the higher power. We can't agree on what it is, what it wants, what it does if it doesn't get what it wants. We can't agree on how to use the power in our own lives. So we call our disagreements religions. And oh, by the way, you had better choose the right one of those 4,000 religions. Because if you choose the wrong one, you will be sent to hell. Because God needs you. It doesn't matter, by the way, if you're kind, caring, compassionate, understanding, forgiving, generous, and loving. If you are all those things as a person, it doesn't matter. You belong to the wrong religion. You're going to hell. And this is the God that religions want us to believe in. And they don't understand why we have a problem with that. Acting worse than the worst among us. You know how crazy it is on this planet? We actually kill people deliberately. I mean, by the authority of the state. The government actually kills people as a way of teaching people that killing people is not okay.
Wild.
So if you are convicted of murder, we kill you to show you that killing people is not okay. And when the contradiction is pointed out, the people who believe in the death penalty say, oh, it's there in the Bible. It says right in the Bible, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And we can see where that's gotten us.
Mm-hmm.
But we forget about the guy who said, actually, you have heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you this, bless your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And if a man slaps you on the right cheek, turn and offer him your left. And if a man sues you at court and demands your coat, give him your shirt as well. And if a man demands that you walk 1 mile with him, go with him twain. It's really very simple. And I could quote many masters, not just one, who've each sent us the exact same message. Buddha said to his many followers, if you are attacked on the side of the road by a group of bandits, and they strip you of your clothes and leave you lying there naked and beat you till you're half dead, and leave you there deserted on the side of the road, and take all of your belongings, if you hold one thought of vengeance or anger toward them, you have mistaken everything I have taught you. So it isn't just one teacher. It isn't just this guy or that guy or this person or that person. Every master, male and female, Catherine of Genoa, Teresa of Avila, Gillian of Norwich, Joan of Arc, the great spiritual teachers of all the world's traditions have told us exactly the same thing, each in their own way. But why bother listening to them? Because they don't know what they're talking about. Or maybe they're saying, well, yeah, maybe a master can live that way, but average people cannot, which means we think that Jesus was a con man. I mean, he was selling us a bill of goods that he knew in advance we couldn't possibly live up to. Or is it possible that he knew what he was talking about? Is it possible, just possible, that there's something we don't fully understand here about God, about life, and about ourselves? The understanding of which would change everything. I'm just asking.
Mm-hmm. One might ask, well, with all of these things that are happening in the world, why doesn't God just intervene?
Because it's, yes, of course, I have asked that question.
Mm-hmm.
That's the question that leads off the book called The God Solution. It's the very first question. Mm-hmm. It's a fair question. I call it fair question time. If there really is a supreme being, just as you've asked, why doesn't she do something about everything that's going wrong? What's he waiting for? But it's not God's desire to step in and solve all of our problems and tell us, just do as I say and everything will be okay. See, it wasn't God's intention to create a species of minions, like living in a kingdom where you do what the king says and you're okay, but if you violate the king's orders, they'll put you to death. God does not have the intention of producing minions who merely have to follow instructions and have all the problems solved for them. God's desire was to imbue every human being with the ability of divinity itself, that is, the ability of creation, to empower all of us to create the reality of our choice.
Mm.
And God will not interfere in the creations in which we engage. God says, it's called evolution. You'll learn. Sooner or later, you will learn that this isn't the way to experience the grandest notion of who you ever had, that you ever had about who you are.
Mm.
So God's job is not to come down and fix everything. God's job is to give us, God's desire was to give us the power to fix everything. And you know what? We could fix most of the human-made problems on the earth virtually overnight. All we have to do is decide that we are the essence of God. That is, that we are really pure love, and that we need, expect, require, and demand nothing in return for the love that we give. And we can start with the person across the pillow.
Mm.
Just a thought.
Yes. It's a very profound thought. Well, what can we do? What can we do to get started? I mean, I think one really important concept that is talked about in your writing is just what we're here for in the first place, right? So, the concept of choice and free will, and, like, are we here? Like, is this just a school? Is that what we're just here to do? Like,
No,
what
you know what?
are
This is
we
not a
doing?
school. I asked God that very question. I asked God exactly that question. What is the point? Is this just a school? And God said, no. I know you've been told by many teachers, life is a school, but life is not a school. I said, well, wait a minute. Yes, some of the great teachers of all time have said life is a school. We have much to learn. And God said to me, Neale, sweetheart, you have nothing to learn. I said, whoa, come on, help me out here, God. Help me out. God said, okay. Neale, is there a tree anywhere on the land where you live? I said, yeah, there's a tree right outside my window. God said, describe it. I said, well, it's a beautiful oak tree. It's about 25, 30 feet high, beautiful canopy. It's a huge, beautiful oak tree. God said, I see. And what has the oak tree learned since it was a seed no bigger than my fingernail? And I said, well, it hasn't learned anything. It's just grown into itself. God said, are you trying to tell me, Neale, that God, implanted in the seed everything the tree needed to know to grow into this beautiful specimen of life? I said, well, I guess you could put it that way. To which God replied, and if I so love the tree, would I not all the more love you? Do you really think I sent you out there? Good luck. I hope you can make it. I implanted in the seed that is you all that you need to know to make this life the grandest experience you could ever have imagined. You have to stop me. I cry at my own stuff.
It's beautiful.
And so I've come to understand, okay, I get it. And you asked a minute ago, where can we start? How do we begin? We begin by asking ourselves life's most important question, which, by the way, most people have not asked themselves.
Mm.
Who am I? I mean, really, seriously, all joking aside, who am I? Am I simply this body? Or maybe this body and my mind? Fair enough. I'm my body and my mind. Is that who I am? Or is it possible, just possible, that I'm more than that? Is it possible that I'm, dare I say it, a spiritual being, having a body and a mind, using my body and my mind as tools with which to complete the agenda of the soul? Now, if we decide that we really are a spiritual entity working with a body and a mind in the physical realm, then we must begin to ask ourselves other questions. Why am I here in the physical realm? What's the point of this? And what is my true identity as a spiritual entity? And when my body ceases to exist, when I do the thing called die, what happens then to my soul? Does God actually send my soul to hell because my body and my mind couldn't agree on the right religion? Or committed some other terrible sin? Krista, I got to tell you something. When I was 9 years old, my parents sent me, God bless them, to Catholic school. Mm. And I'm really glad that I went to a Catholic parochial school, because at least it taught me about the existence of this thing called God. And it gave me at least an opening to understand there's more going on here. And that was a great teaching. But I remember the priest came into our classroom once a week to do catechism lessons. And the priest came in one week and he was talking about mortal sin. And he said, children, there are two kinds of sin, mortal sin and venial sin. Mortal sin is a sin that if you die with a mortal sin on your soul, which has not been confessed and forgiven, you will go straight to hell. And I said, well, Father, I remember raising my little 9-year-old hand. What would be an example of a mortal sin? And he said, well, one that I could think you could relate to, because would be missing Mass on Sunday. I said, I'm sorry, Father. Missing Mass on Sunday is a sin punishable by going to hell? And the priest said, yes, that's the teaching of the Catholic Church. Now, if you go to confession and you confess your sin and you do your penance, but if you die with that sin on your soul, you miss Mass on Sunday. You will, without a good excuse. I mean, if you're taking care of a sick parent or you have to work or whatever, fair enough. But if you just decided to go play a game of golf, or you just decided not to go to church that Sunday, that's a mortal sin in the eyes of the Roman Catholic Church. Now, by the way, folks who are watching this program, you may think I'm making this up. Check it out. Just check out Roman Catholic theology, the teaching to this day. That's an example of the many things that the many religions on the earth tell us we're going to go to hell for. Because the Catholic Church wants to scare the hell out of you. And then when I tell you, either you go to church on Sunday morning or you're going to hell. That's how they fill the pews. The only way you can fill a pew is with fear. And you know what? You're supposed to be, you're called a good person. You know what they call a good person? He's a good person. He's a God-fearing man. Mm-hmm. God-fearing is to be good? What have we done to ourselves? What are we telling ourselves about this so-called supreme being? Or was Shakespeare right when he said in his wonderful writing, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy? Mm. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to rise up against the sea of troubles, and by opposing to end them. Aye, there's the rub.
It's time to start contemplating a little bit more, I think, for everyone.
Yes, we need to ask ourselves the question, who am I? If my answer is I'm a spiritual being, then where am I? If the answer is I'm in the realm of the physical, then why am I where I am? If the answer is to use my physical experience in order to demonstrate experience and express my true identity, then the fourth question becomes, good. What do I intend to do about that? I call these the four fundamental questions of life. Who am I? Where am I? Why am I where I am? And what do I intend to do about that? You asked a minute ago, where can we start? That's where we can start. by asking ourselves those 4 questions every morning. I tell people, write them on your bathroom mirror. Get a magic marker, get a little, felt tip pen, and write in the top corner of your bathroom mirror, who am I? Where am I? Why am I where I am? What do I intend to do about that?
I love that. If only every single human on this planet did introspective work, I think we would be in a much, much different place than we are right now.
You think? You think?
I know. I know. And I've said many times, if everybody on the planet just reads Conversations with God, we would be in a much different place than we are right now. And maybe a large dose of magic mushrooms on top of that too. I think that would help as well.
By the way, I will be glad to send anyone who asks me for it an uploaded manuscript of the book, The God Solution, at no cost. So if anyone wants to read The God Solution, along with a companion book called The Essential Path, I send the author's manuscript copies of those to anybody. I upload them to anybody who requests it. So all they have to do is write me an email, and I'll send it to them.
Yay.
Now, your next question should be, well, Neale, what is your email address? Otherwise, people wouldn't know how to write you an email.
Yes, make sure, tell me your email address, and we will make sure that we have it in the show notes and under all of the things so people can access it.
A person could not forget my email address if their life depended on it. My email address is neale@nealedonaldwalsch.com.
Perfect. That is the perfect email address for you. I love it. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Neale. Is there anything else, any other wisdom you would like to impart on?
Well, people have often asked me through the years. I was asked by Oprah on her show, and I was asked by Larry King when he interviewed me years ago, what's the single most important message that you feel you've received in your 9 books covering 3,000 pages of dialogue? I tell them, well, the single most important message was when I asked God, why doesn't my life work? What is it I don't understand? There's clearly something I'm not getting here. What is it? And I remember God's answer vividly. She said, Neale, sweetheart, it's very simple. You think your life is about you, and your life has nothing to do with you. It's about everyone whose life you touch and the way in which you touch it. But when you understand that, your life will become also about you for a very elegant reason. There's nobody else in the room. We are all one. Therefore, what you do for me and what you do for another, you do for you. And what you fail to do for another, you fail to do for you. It's really quite simple.
Beautiful. Well, I think we will leave it there for today. An absolutely wonderful message, so much inspiration. And where else can people go to learn more about you and your work?
If people want to stay connected to the message, they can just go to CWG, which is, of course, Conversations with God. But to shorten it for a website, cwgconnect.com. And you can stay connected and learn more about the message there with lots of free resources. So cwgconnect.com, including a column that's found there called Ask Neale, that I visit 3 times a day, that people visit as well and they ask me the kinds of questions you're asking, and I provide them the answers in writing. So that's how people can stay connected. cwgconnect.com.
Amazing. And lots of resources on YouTube and things as well. You're all over the internet because you produce so many amazing works of art, in my opinion. So thank you so much for your work and for coming on today and speaking to our audience. I really, really appreciate it.
Krista, thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks so much for sharing your time and energy with us today. We'd love to hear your feedback on how our podcast has impacted your life and are also open to suggestions for new and interesting topics. Please leave your comments with a quick review to help us grow this magical community of wellness warriors and light workers. Every month, we select one lucky reviewer to win our big magic box containing all 3 of our beautiful magic lattes. To connect with us further, check us out on Instagram at wild_remedies. Thank you again, and see you at the next episode.